The secret training that bestows instant enlightenment upon any man or woman who touches it. You to imagine a fence at the edge of a great city. On one side of the fence is the population of hurried masses, running to and from work, fully immersed within the overwhelming and seemingly inescapable current of domestic existence. On the other side of the fence is a lush, verdant valley at the foot of an expansive mountain wilderness. Within this valley roam the true seekers of the world. They walk toward the solitude of the jungle, forest, and caves in search of something that the great city has never been able to give them. They may work in the great city, but their sensibilities continually retreat towards the land of the ancient saints. Then there are those who sit atop the fence. They are considering a jump into the verdant and mysterious wilderness. But the power of the great city still has a hold on them. For years I have received emails about courting the masses and taking my message to the world-wide swathes of humanity. I also receive emails from the mass print and online publications requesting that I send them some of my work. My words have been published in some mass publications, and my book is available on the mass website called Amazon, so one cannot correctly say that I haven't made my work available to the world. But I won't be disingenuous. The personal request that I received to take my work to the masses and the publications that approach me to present my work to a wider circulation are not taken seriously, I admit. The masses have never been interested in transformation, but they are only interested in happy quotes, token commentary, and staying right where they are for their entire lives. The material world has ensnared them, and understand this. If you try to forcefully pull a man away from that which he holds dear, he will retaliate violently. As I have often said before, man will bitterly complain about his miseries. But if you attempt to remove his miseries from him, he will fight you to the death. For he does not know who he would be without them. The human beings on the wilderness side of the fence are all in. These are the rare and sacred souls of this earth who quite often reach enlightenment in this lifetime. My work is for them. Then we come to the ones on the fence. The vast majority of those who are reading this discourse are the rare souls of the earth. But a few of them are on the fence. If you are one of the masses who has accidentally wandered into this world, please let me know and I'll remove you from this private list. As I said, a few of you are on the fence. The words of wisdom, the call of enlightenment, the talk of banishing your ego, the promise of freedom, the experience of truth, the magical possibility of becoming free of thoughts, the opportunity to live as a god, are things that ring true to you. They touch an authentic place within you, a place that the world, the city, the domestic life has not been able to touch. There is a longing within you for such things. Perhaps it is from the samskaras of your past lives. Whatever else may be said, you feel that there is a part of you that simply won't be denied. A hunger that won't just go away. A thirst for truth that you have felt for much of your adult life. It is who you are. Then why do you sit on the fence? I must admit that the moment I wrote the above sentence, I immediately felt a bit of unease. For I felt that perhaps you began to think that I was going to try to coax you off the fence, or that I was going to motivate you to once and for all enter the world of gods and roam the ancient forests and mountain valleys. In that glorious masterpiece of a film, Braveheart, there is a scene that comes to mind. William Wallace, the leader of Scotland's resistance, has been captured and imprisoned by his enemy, the English king. During his imprisonment, the woman who would be the English queen comes to visit Wallace in prison. She says to Wallace, "Sir, I come to beg you to confess all and swear allegiance to the king, that he might show you mercy." To which Wallace replies, "If I swear to him, then everything I am is dead already. Never in all my life have I attempted to coax any man away from his sensibilities. Never have I attempted to motivate anyone, for if I do, then I am dead already." I respect Tony Robbins for some of his insights, for some of them are undeniably correct. But his attempt to motivate and energize and scream and dance and sugar high that leave a man by the time he reaches the parking lot, it is silly and completely fruitless. If I ever have millions coming to my talks, I will have done something seriously wrong. If you want an entertainment, sign up for Tony's seminar and dance the night away. I am far more interested in looking into man's heart in unflinching silence than I am in motivating him to change. Never try to awaken a man who wishes to stay asleep. Thus, the people who are in the great city have headphones permanently stitched to their ears and involuntary thoughts bombarding them at every second of the day. They cannot hear the car horn behind them, much less hear my words. But what about these people on the fence? Why is it that they sit on the fence? They sit on the fence because their mind has clearly created a fence within them. An internal fence which is even larger than the one they find themselves sitting upon. This internal fence has made many clever divisions: spirituality versus real life, lofty thoughts versus practicality, living in the clouds versus living in domestic reality, living in a cave versus living in a house, family man versus ascetic. This is understandable, for the gurus and the spiritual texts and the sermons and the swamis have been anything but practical. They have simply sermonized and proselytized and prescribed and preached. Love is all, God is all, I am all, you are all, we are all one. Whether or not it is true is not the point. The point is that such talk is completely impractical, and thus it hasn't the power to transform anyone. Such lofty and scriptural talk just create a division within the mind, which basically implies that a man must choose between the practical life and the spiritual life. Shave your head, wear orange robes, sell your possessions, leave your family, and beg alms on the side of a dirt road in the Far East. Am I right? Listen, if you wish to donate your money to the temples and churches, that's your business. If you want to give away all your wealth and become hairless monk, that's your choice. But if you have bought into the fact that these are the prerequisites for achieving liberation, freedom and enlightenment, you have been sold a bill of goods, my friend. Almost 100% of the so-called swamis that you will meet in India are fakes. The ones that are not fakes are the ones you are not likely to encounter. For they live in abject seclusion at the heights that frightens the common man, and this is by design. The gurus and preachers have spoken to the mind in very vague and uncertain terms. On the one hand, they call it great and benevolent. On the other hand, they call it evil and maniacal. The fundamental premise that has been at the heart of their ineffectiveness is that they come at the world with an attempt to convince and convert. They have an angle, you see. No matter how lofty the angle or how healthy the advice is, it is proselytization nonetheless. And the mind rejects any attempts to proselytization. Allow me to present to you in no uncertain terms how the mind is costing you your career, your relationships, and your life. This is not spirituality. This is practical, real-world consequence of how the mind is costing you your career, your relationships, and your life. It matters not if you like it, any more than whether you like the fact that the sun rises in the east. Whether you are an executive, an actor, an artist, or a professional athlete, your mind is costing you millions in the pocketbook and heartache and misery in your day-to-day life. How so? I'll give it to you straight. No BS, no loftiness, no pie in the sky, no sermons, no rituals, no meditations, no religious spiritual nonsense. Just straight plain English. Lean into the screen. Shut the entire world out for a moment and I will tell you. Are you leaned in? I'm not joking. If I'm going to tell it to you straight, don't have music on in the background or headphones in your orifice or background chatter in the hallway. Close the damn door. Pull down the blinds. Yank the headphones, turn off the music, and lean in. I'm not wasting your time, so please don't waste mine. If you waste my time, I might get the sense that some of the masses have snuck in, at which point I'll pull the plug from this laptop and stop this discourse in the mid-sentence. Okay? Here is how the mind is costing you everything. Let's take yesterday as an example. Yesterday was Tuesday. You might have had business meetings and auditioned for a part, or met with a client, or trained in the gym, or practiced your sport, or spoken with your children, or conversed with your wife, and so on. Right? Are you with me? Don't drift. I need you here, my friend. In every single one of these activities and encounters, you simmered in involuntary thought. As your child or your client or your acting partner or your business associate was speaking to you, you only heard a small fraction of what they said. Only a small percentage of their words got past the noise in your head. If you were in the gym or practicing your sport, you had almost zero moments in which you were completely clear. Zero moments in which you experienced complete silence. When you were not involved in your work, these involuntary thoughts buzzed around your head like a swarm of bees, causing you to have small blip of emotion, small doses of disappointment, apathy, sadness, disappointment, hope, fear, anxiety, and so on. Am I right? This has been your daily existence for your entire adult life. Has it not? There has been those rare and fortunate times when the thoughts in your head simply vanished and you saw things with 3D clarity and your words became perfect and effortless. You were in the zone, right? And you searched for that your entire life, but you never found it. And then you just stopped searching it altogether, hoping that this mystical state would one day arise again. What is this mystical state that you have not been able to cultivate? What is this thing called the zone anyways? Google the zone and you will find all types of descriptions, and none of them will tell you what it actually is. All they will tell you is that the heart rate slows down, time slows down, and things become effortless. For years I wanted to know what the zone was. As I look upon my shelf, I see at least 2 books on the zone. They spent 300 pages saying that time slows down and things become effortless. And they say that zone is a state in which the mind becomes calm. So they try to get people to calm their minds. And what happens? The mind grows more restless. I must admit, these books used to really piss me off. I'll have to burn them tomorrow. They have no right to sit on my shelf. Because they don't reveal truth. Because they never told me what the zone really was. So as they say, if you want something done properly, you have to do it yourself. So I spent years doing experiments with the mind, trying to figure out what this zone actually was. And one day I figured it out. The zone is not a state in which the mind is calm. Because if you try to grab a lion by the throat, it will retaliate. Then what is this zone? The zone is a state in which the mind has disappeared. The zone is a state in which you achieve the state of no thought. The zone, my dear friend, is a state of no mind. So what does this mean for you? What it means is that when a man who undergoes a special training to learn to stop thinking, he gains clarity. He gains Atmaman, the mind of the spirit. And when you converse with a family member in this glorious state, your family members falls in love with you all over again. When you speak to a business associate or an employee or a prospective client in this state, your words and your presence send a signal to the person's mind that you are stalwart and a master for whom they would do anything. You don't actually believe that how a person views you or feels about you is actually a conscious and voluntary act on his part, do you? When you audition for a role, you experience zero interference and zero self-consciousness, and thus you so completely become the character you are portraying that the casting director cannot imagine having anyone but you play this part. For it is only the novice who acts, the professional becomes. When you play your sport on a grand stage, you see the field and the fairway in front of you, and this monumental clarity allows you to internalize it so completely that it almost feels like cheating. And no matter what happens during the game, nothing troubles you. And it's not that you have a good way to deal with it. It just doesn't arise in the first place. The individuals who wrote those books on the zone and the therapists and sports psychologists have all said that the zone comes very rarely and it can only last a short period of time, perhaps a few minutes to a few hours a day. These are people who cannot even tell anyone what zone actually is. How credible is their advice concerning how long it can last? Let's get beyond the BS, shall we? This place I have carved out in the remote corner of the world has always been devoted to sincere truth. And it is and has always been only for the sincere seeker. So let's speak the actual truth, shall we? You can absolutely, without a doubt, and incontrovertibly train yourself or be trained to live in clarity. And doing so will garner you millions in your business. It will mark you as a rare, one-of-a-kind human being who will be coveted by the leaders of your industry. It will make you have storybook personal relationships. And it will turn you into a Rembrandt of your craft. Put succinctly, the inability to curb involuntary thought is the single most pervasive cancer of all mankind. It is the source of all of his anxieties, It is the cause of all his turmoils. It is the genesis of all his failed relationships. It is the reason behind him living at a fraction of his mental and physical capabilities. It literally and practically costs him millions in his work, miseries in his life, and failures in his relationships. Listen carefully. If you do one single thing in your life, if there is a wormhole to practically becoming the god of your own life, if there exists a panacea anywhere on this earth, if there is a straight and direct path to become a living master or a holy saint, if there is a secret route to achieving bona fide human perfection, if there is a wholly achievable and authentic way to live every single day in peace and bliss, train yourself or become trained to think only when you wish to think, and turn off thought and exist in clarity and silence when you wish to live in clarity and silence. The training to have thought under your own personal control is the single most direct and shortest path to really and truly becoming enlightened. In the very clothes you are wearing, in the very house in which you sit. As you begin the training, your thoughts will begin to stand out. Then the mind will begin to protest. At which point you know you are on the right track. This is where the real game begins. The gauntlet of the mind. It will begin to throw more thoughts at you, but you will avoid some of them. Then after a short period of time, you will begin to experience glimpses. This is similar to the way in which the ancient Himalayan saints achieved siddhis. You will experience glimpses and flashes of no thought. You will look at a television screen or a tree or a child's face and see it almost at a molecular level. It will be stunningly clear. Your emotions in the beginning will still come at you. But a very interesting thing will begin to happen. You will find that a thin space has begun to grow between you and your emotions. The emotions are beginning to lose hold upon you. The mind is beginning to lose control of you. Then after some months, you will begin to notice large gaps in time, where 4 hours will pass and you thought it had only been 30 minutes. This is how writing this discourse has felt for me. Then each word you speak begins conscious rather than reactive. Have you noticed that no two people ever truly talk? They engage in a series of reflexive verbal reactions. They are not conversations at all. It is essentially mind speaking to mind. I won't tell you what happens after that. It's not that I'm trying to keep it from you. Not at all. It is just that if I tell you these things, your mind will begin to think them too fantastic to be real. And I cannot give your mind the license to lie to you. And as for living in the moment or experiencing the now, no one has ever told you the secret missing piece. The one and only thing in the entire world which keeps you from the moment is involuntary thought. Devote one small part of your life to this one single training, and as sure as the night follows the day, all of the things listed above will become your living reality.